Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. This is a Sunesis fit for T1 Electric Abyss. It is pretty cheap. I mean, it's not extremely cheap, but it's pretty cheap. And this is still cheaper than what a proper Tech 2 fitted cruiser would cost anyway. So I think this is a good complement if you don't want to go for like cruise and like T2 Abyss. You could always use this destroyer here in T1 and Abysses. And I would say the main thing that is really good about this fit is that it has very minimal skill requirements. It's only really fitting skills that could be something that you would need if you're like a new player. But I am using this as a guy who is a character who's like an alpha clone trained skills only, so this is completely possible in the alpha clone. I've also got these Tech 2 drones here, and the main reason I have these Tech 2 drones is not for DPS, it's because these are cheap. These are pretty cheap, and they're a lot cheaper than the faction drones. The faction drones are a lot more expensive. They cost $1 million each. These only cost 350,000 ISK each, the Tech 2 ones. And then on top of that, the Tech 2 also do more damage. That's why I prefer to use the Tech 2 drones for in this scenario. But you definitely be able to get by with faction drones as well. Just keep in mind that they're more expensive. And then we've got some cheap ones here, some Acolyte ones, just serve as a backup in case we were to have, you know, these like rogue drone cruiser waves, you know, these rogue drone battle cruiser waves and that kind of stuff that likes to eat drones alive. So then we would want to use the cheap ones because there's high likelihood that our drones will die. And the fit is basically like similar to how I would fit a worm for the Abyss, a bit of a hybrid tank. So it's got medium shield booster and a medium extender. So it's actually pretty beefy. We've got pretty beefy buffer, and we've also got pretty beefy boost as well. And we are in fact going to be cap stable in the Electric Abyss, so we'll be pretty damn tanky, both in terms of our buffer, but also in terms of our EHP and boosting per second. So it'll be really nice. Hopefully, this is the first time I'm ever testing this out. We're going to go and give this a shot. I have no doubt that this will handle this perfectly fine, but who knows? This is at least the first initial test I'm going to do. So we're using Mjolnir missiles and Acolytes, the EM-based weaponry, just because, you know, the EM resistance is reduced in the Electric Abyss. So we're going to go straight in and wreck these guys. And the auto-targeting system here is nice because it gives us an increased amount of max lock targets. Okay, we'll take out then DPS and go for this Kikimora over here. Kiki, probably what you could have done actually, or I could have done, is to have like a full passive Sunesis, maybe for gammas. That could maybe be a possibility too, actually. Let's see now, what is our range on our missiles? 32 kilometers. The guy, he's got pretty good, decent skills, but also the Sunesis has some nice bonuses that you don't even need skills for. Those are really good to have. Okay, we don't even need to use our shield booster over here. Just use a little bit there. We can make our way towards the cache as well. And I'm using Tech 2 because there's nothing really here that threatens our drones. Just gonna go with the Tech 2 ones. Let's see now. Here's the cache. There it is. We'll just do one missile volley on this thing over here. This Downwick is taking a pretty long time to go down, but it's also a bit to do with that his natural resist on the EM is pretty high. And then also that I think that a little bit is being negated by our EM missiles, and then just generally speaking, this ship doesn't have a whole lot of DPS. I mean, it does have DPS, but it's not got like a crazy amount of DPS. This is mainly like tanky. I would say this fit is. You could definitely go higher with a Tech 2 drone damage amplifier, or a third drone damage amplifier, because I'm only using compact ones. You can see here the compact ones. They're a lot easier to skill into, and they're easy to fit as well. So they're pretty decent if you want to use stuff quickly in drone-based ships. The only thing is really they just do less DPS. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so this Kikimora right here, this is a bit of a mistake I did. I shouldn't have gone for the Kikimora last. I should have gone for the Kikimora first, because as you can see, he is doing a ton of damage to us because he's spooled up now to max spool. It was very dumb what I did right here, and you definitely always want to go for the Kikimoras first in the T1 Abyss. Just there's usually the spawns of Kikimoras in the T1 Abyss is usually composed of like a Kikimora and a Damavik, or maybe two Damaviks at most, I think. And the Damaviks do so much less damage than the Kikimoras, and I find that the Kikimoras die a lot quicker too because they're pretty big and they're like a lot more sizable than the Damavik, so you apply a lot better DPS to them. So it's just usually better to go for them first, because then they wouldn't have the time to spool up your did now. You saw that how they are annihilating my shield there in the end. We're just going to boost up here to max buffer, and we'll just go back in. Alright, it's always nice to have a full buffer when you go into the next room. The Sunesis has a bit of a CPU problem, so that's why I've got this rig here that gives a bit of CPU. It helps me fit a lot of these items here, otherwise I'd have really big problems with CPU. I noticed that that's usually my main problem when I'm fitting the Sunesis. I need some decent CPU. And then we've got this thermal reinforcer rig right here, because this is nice since it gives us some decent thermal resistance, which is very important in the Abyss. The thermal resistance is one of the resistance types that are used most by the dangerous, quote-unquote dangerous, or at least I would consider to be the dangerous spawns. So Concord spawns can be pretty deadly, and also Triglavian waves can be pretty deadly. They both do predominantly thermal damage, so it would have been even harder if we didn't have that thermal reinforcer rig, if we were against those Triglavians without it. Let's have these Acolytes wreck these sleeper drones over here. It's very simple. We pop this bioaccumulative cache over here, take this one, and move forward. We could obviously have fit this with more DPS if we had had the Tech 2 drone damage amplifiers, but also the Tech 2 missile launchers. Everything here is Tech 1 apart from the drones, but you can obviously fit them for like Tech 1 or the faction drones. I'd preferably have faction drones. I wouldn't go with only Tech 1 ones, because the Tech 2 drones give, or the faction and Tech 2s, they give some decent damage bows. So don't go with only Tech 1 drones. The only reason I got this here is just as a cheap like backup, just in case. This guy is soon destroyed. We can keep our range here, 500 meters. Oh, he's taking a bit of damage. That's not good. We've only got one set of Tech 2, so we don't want to have it take a lot of damage. No. Okay, good. We'll go to the next wave. I don't think any particular waves will be very hard here. I only think maybe the Angels could be a little bit problematic, since we've got pretty low EM resist here, and the Angels, they do a lot more EM damage than anything else. And see here, we've got reduced EM resistance because of this weather effect right here, so they'll be hitting pretty damn hard. So here, there's the Kikimora wave again, so we're going to want to not do what we did before. We're going to want to instead go for the Kiki. The Kiki is going to get it first here. There we go. And we can shoot one volley here towards this bioaccumulative cache, because initially he doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's just when he spools up, he does crazy damage. Do one volley on this bioaccumulative cache here so we can get some of the loots, the dank loots. I'm going to open up this wreck right here and keep firing on this guy. Sunesis is strong. Sunesis is strong. Okay, let's move forward. Keep going more forward. Sunesis, move faster, please. Pretty slow. It is not the fastest ship in the world. Especially since we're in a destroyer with an afterburner. Destroyers with afterburners, generally speaking, are pretty slow. It's not like with an MWD where you go really fast. There we go, he just died like that. Now it's just the Damavik left, and all the significant DPS is really off the grid here. We can probably even out-rep this Damavik, to be honest. The Damavik also spools up damage the same way the Kikimora does. But it's just not as to the same degree as you have when you're going up against the Kikimora. So it's pretty smooth sailing when you've only got one Damavik. You can see here our shield is regenerating right back up right there. It's really nice. Let's move towards the transfer conduit. Also, one thing you could do if you have got CPU problems, you can swap this out for 1MN compact afterburner. I wouldn't recommend switching this out for compact medium shield booster, because this can give problems with capacitor usage, since the Clarity Ward one, it uses less capacitor. But this could also be swapped out for Regolith medium shield extender, but it gives less shield and also costs more as well. So just keep that in mind. So if, like I say, I was really starved on the CPU, just check out here in case, because sometimes it can happen that people try to gank you out here, and you want to fight back and wreck their faces if they try to gank you. At least that's what you can do in this ship, because it's a pretty tanky ship, so you'll probably wreck the guy who tries to gank you before they can wreck you. But there's no one here. Otherwise, all we do is we just lock him up, send drones, wreck his face, and overheat this shield booster, just to get as much shield as possible. So that went pretty smooth, I have to say. Again, the Angel spawn I think will be probably the hardest wave, but we have a pretty big buffer, so we'll be able to survive that. It shouldn't be too much of an issue with that. Could be a future test sometime. But what I was saying is that if you wanted to make this to be a more like fitting friendly, you would replace the 1MN monopropellant with a compact like that. Then you put a Regolith medium shield extender. like that. All right, let's sell our loot. What did we get here? It wasn't so much, to be honest. 2.5 million. You can definitely get more than that from the Abyss. Got this filter right here. You can find this filter on my profile picture if you type ACFAC. My profile here, show info on bio, and you see the Abyssal loot filter. You can get that. It's pretty useful. And you can sell this. Get some little puny portion of ISKs. But it's at least something that this Sunesis can pull in. So there we go. Sunesis fit for alpha clones. There is pretty low skill requirement. Seems pretty tanky, pretty solid. Obviously, a bit more testing would be needed to make it like a confirm that, oh, this works in every wave. I think the Angel wave will probably be the hardest one, just based on the resistant types. But it could possibly solve by putting a EM rig on it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video right here. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.